That's correct. Minecraft is currently hosted by community servers. Call of Duty community servers. So it's an option that is out there in existence here today.
They're illegal.
So is it like the black market of video games?
Yes.
They get paid by game companies, and they also collaborate with AI companies, which I find particularly ironic that the ESA is making its argument on piracy and intellectual property theft. Then on the other hand, they go and advocate for AI when the multi-billion-dollar corporations steal from people. That's allowed. When the people try to host their own server to play with their friends on, that's theft. Fuck you. Minecraft servers are illegal, black markets, and piracy. The video game trade group and anti-consumer mouthpiece, the Entertainment Software Association, called private game servers, quote, illegal, and likened them to, quote, black markets, end quote. Yes, actually. That's like actually the phrase they used in a recent hearing at the California State Senate.
One part of the bill is around the ability to go on a community server. The author is stating that that's currently allowed right now, so long as you're. If I don't want to misunderstand what you said, Assemblymember.
That's correct. Minecraft is currently hosted by community servers. Call of Duty community servers. So it's an option that is out there in existence here today.
They're illegal, and they are not in any way affiliated with Microsoft. Microsoft, for Minecraft, has gotten a lot of criticism because of those community servers not employing the same safety standards that Microsoft does on their Minecraft servers.
So is it like the black market of video games?
Yes, in fact, we consider it piracy.
Rather than admitting being wrong and saying it had absolutely no clue how gamers actually play games like Minecraft, the Entertainment Software Association, better known as the ESA, the A stands for assholes, doubled down on its bullshit in a statement saying, quote, private servers infringe on the intellectual property, IP, rights of game publishers, end quote. And just to be clear, Minecraft itself distributed the jars for the servers. It's like they put them out there. You can host it yourself. It's something they directly support. They have documentation for it. In fact, this is just how games used to be played. Call of Duty, Counter-Strike, Battlefield all came to rise in the heyday of self-hosted servers. The ESA spends millions of dollars lobbying Uncle Sam and state governments every year, and its priorities include things like enshrining subscription revenue models, using AI to create assets for video games, and vilifying right-to-repair laws. The ESA itself says this of subscription gaming, rather than owned gaming, quote, allowing regulatory flexibility for subscription services enhances consumer choice. Subscription-based models save consumers money, provide predictability, and allow customized gameplay experiences, end quote. It also says that tech-savvy, quote, game players, end quote, do have another word for that. It's a little clunky to say game players, but thanks for letting us know how much you know about gaming. They say game players like subscription gaming because, quote, they value and demand the ease of auto-renewal options, end quote. It might seem weird that an entertainment association might be so openly anti-consumer, except for the obvious. The ESA represents companies like Microsoft, helmed by CEO Satya Nadella, and also represents Sony, Nintendo, EA, and Amazon, and says that the top benefit for members is to, quote, shape policy priorities, end quote. It's interesting because the policy being shaped by its members include EA Games being bought by Donald Trump's son-in-law Jared Kushner and Saudi Arabia's PIF. Or if you prefer, this past week, Sony killing physical media and discs for physical games distribution on consoles and any right of ownership of those games on consoles. And Microsoft spending tens of millions of dollars on lobbying every year. But Microsoft also lobbies for the ESA. Microsoft owns Minecraft, and Minecraft allows for third-party private servers. So in this manner, Microsoft lobbied against itself. Minecraft creator Notch, who's no longer affiliated with the game, called the ESA's comments, quote, borderline evil, end quote. And after this past week, I can't say I ever thought I'd miss Ballmer. But here we are. Ballmer shouting is correct. The ESA made its comments during a California State Senate hearing about a bill called Protect Our Games Act, a bill that had the support of the Stop Killing Games movement and showed some progress toward consumer rights for digital media in the United States. However, the California bill failed during the committee's vote, and while it'll be allowed for reconsideration, the ESA's straight-up propaganda succeeded in halting its progress for now. While digging for the story, we found ESA IRS documents revealing tens of millions of dollars of membership fees from game publishers, conflicts of interest where the ESA contributed to the evidence that it presented to the committee, millions of dollars per year spent on lobbying, connections to lobbyists who work with AI and memory companies like Nebius and Micron, and links via lobbying firms to Bloomberg and Blackstone, not to mention the irony of saying that you can't pirate things, but they're supportive of generative AI. Lobbying and trade groups often operate behind closed doors, but when those doors open for a little bit for a public hearing, we finally get to see just how unbelievably incompetent and anti-consumer they are. And this is from an organization that pretends to represent video gaming for the betterment of it. So we're going to look at how wrong some of their claims are, but we're also digging into, as a good opportunity, the shady background of the ESA. Didn't think much of it before, but there's a lot there. We brought you this deep dive with store.gamersnexus.net. We're currently running a sale on our store. Our GN15 component mouse mats are currently on sale for $20, with the autographed version down in step at $40. The Retro IO themed drink coaster pack that we made with soft 3D components is now marked down to $30 for a pack of 4. Our Amp Medium mod mat is on sale for $60 now. Our Disappointment t-shirt from this year has its last remaining stock on sale for $18. And our component mouse pad with custom rubber underside and stitching is available for $15. The component mouse mats fit a mouse and keyboard, have an all-over print that we made in-house, and have a yellow rubber underside that we customized with blue stitching for anti-fray. The medium mod mats include an enamel pin, pinout card, and medium-sized rugged work surface for your shop, garage, or office with anti-static strap. The Retro IO coasters are one of my favorites, featuring a floppy drive coaster with a floppy in the slot. Controller coaster with retro colorway, Model M inspired numpad coaster, and the GN logo. These are easily washable in the sink, are a soft material, and are great for catching condensation while adding some flair to your setup. Finally, we just launched our stackable, ESD-safe AMD CPU holder trays on the store. Each holds 6 AMD CPUs of the 40x40mm package size, including FM2, FM2+, AM3, AM3+, AM4, and AM5. We're making these at GN with fully in-house 3D modeling, CAD drawings, and printing, including our testing of the anti-static dissipative properties of the printed filament. Our existing team at the office is managing the printing of these, which helps further support our work while giving us some experience in a field we're excited to learn about. Head over to store.gamersnexus.net to support this content directly. Back to it. We'll start with the news coming out of this hearing, and then we're going to go into the lobbying history and where the ESA spends its money, and other than subscription gaming, what for? But let's start with the timeline of how we got here. Here's what happened. On February 12th, 2026, Chris Ward, a member of California's State Assembly, introduced a new state bill that would give consumers legal protections to continue playing games that they've spent money on after publishers shutter servers. On June 29th, the ESA pushed back on the bill in front of the Senate Business and Professions Committee, or the BS Committee for short, and Economic Development Committee. When talking about Minecraft, ESA Vice President for State Government Affairs Jennifer Gibbons called private servers illegal.
They're illegal, and they are not in any way affiliated with Microsoft. Microsoft, for Minecraft, has gotten a lot of criticism because of those community servers not employing the same safety standards that Microsoft does on their Minecraft servers.
California State Senator Caroline Menjivar, apparently too inept to study the topic she's literally voting on for even 1 minute, followed up to ask this brilliant question.
So is it like the black market of video games?
To which the ESA's Gibbons responded,
Yes, in fact, we consider it piracy. We have lawsuits, 2 pending lawsuits against private servers right now, and the United States Trade Representative in their notorious markets reports on counterfeiting and piracy has named some of these big private servers as a notorious market.
To reiterate, Minecraft officially facilitates private servers on its website. Minecraft's EULA also says that players can install Minecraft Java Edition on a server and host online play. Looking at the very USTR report she references, which the ESA contributed to, we'll come back to that little level of what we think is corruption. It highlights 2 World of Warcraft servers, firestormservers.com and warmain.com, but it does not describe private servers themselves as illegal. Instead, it points out that they allowed users to avoid paying subscription fees to games, which is not what the California bill called for. At best, none of these people know what the fuck they're talking about, and at worst, they're intentionally omitting information to further restrict ownership, which the ESA obviously supports with its pro-subscription propaganda. Free servers for pay-to-play MMORPGs that require monthly subscriptions are not at all related to servers for buy-to-own games that are hosted privately. Following the ESA's lies, the pro-ownership bill, which advocated for some protections if you buy a game, failed on the committee floor. It garnered 4 aye votes, 3 no votes, and 4 abstentions, leaving the bill short of the votes necessary to advance. Despite the setback, Stop Killing Games General Director Moritz Katzner remained optimistic following the news and wrote this, quote, "This was our first attempt in our first year in the United States with a U.S. budget of $0, no paid staff in California, no war chest, no in-person lobbying operation," end quote. Stop Killing Games also spoke about the ESA, stating, quote, "They had to work for this. They're going to have to work a lot harder next time because next time we'll be ready," end quote. Katzner argued that the ESA mischaracterized the bill by claiming it required perpetual support and that keeping online games playable after support ends would be impossible. We agree with his description of the ESA's mischaracterization, which we think echoes lies and misrepresentations advanced by online influencers previously. That's not what the bill is asking for at all. The bill just wants some kind of assurance that post-shutdown, you can still play the game locally or you have tools like local server executables to make the game operational again, and we'll talk about the specifics of the bill in a minute. In closing, Katzner stated, quote, "We're not stopping, not even close. Next session, we come back with an in-person lobbying presence, the funding to do this properly, and a long list of organizations and developers signed on in support. We're not limiting this to California. We intend to introduce versions of this in other state legislatures, and we are seriously looking at the federal level," end quote. The day after the committee voted against advancing the bill, the ESA tripled down on claims about private servers being illegal in a statement sent to PC Gamer. Quote, "Private servers infringe on intellectual property, IP rights of game publishers. Publishers reserve the right to exercise their rights against them. The provision in CAAB 1921 that proposed these servers as a legitimate alternative to keep games running raises concerns about a publisher's ability to enforce their IP rights," end quote. The ESA then sent PC Gamer another statement, surely a sign of a competent and organized organization that has its shit together. In the follow-up to the follow-up that they followed up after their follow-up, the ESA told PC Gamer that, quote, "Private servers that host or distribute copyrighted game content without authorization infringe on the intellectual property, aka IP rights of game publishers. While publishers may take different approaches, all publishers reserve the right to exercise their rights against IP infringement," end quote. The association added that, quote, "Private servers operate with no oversight from the publisher and do not uphold the same trust and safety standards." Here we go again. Do you see where it's going? The quote continues, "This could create an unsafe environment for players and be counter to the industry's commitment to fostering safe and fun gameplay for all players," end quote. In other words, private servers went from illegal, black market, and piracy, things people have actually gone to jail for, to think of the kids. It's ID verification 100% is next. Just keep moving those goalposts. We'll get there eventually. Minecraft creator Notch, who sold the IP and Studio Mojang to Microsoft for $2.5 billion in 2014, commented about the situation on Twitter, saying, quote, "I feel like the ESA is being incredibly scummy by pulling this. I've never liked them, but even less so now. I did not wish for my work to be used against people. This is borderline evil," end quote. Many of the claims made during the committee hearing centered around what the bill supposedly required, but if you actually read it, a lot of that stuff wasn't really in there. So let's explore what the bill was actually trying to do. California Assembly Bill 1921, the Protect Our Games Act, grew out of the momentum generated by Stop Killing Games in Europe. As the organization's general director Moritz Katzner put it,
SKG has been directly involved in that effort, working with Assemblymember Chris Schwartz's office in the California State Assembly.
The bill would have required game companies to provide 60 days notice before shutting down services, prohibited continued sale of games that became unusable afterward, and required publishers to either make those games playable offline or refund customers. None of this requires distributing source code or expending cost on an ongoing basis to maintain services. It protects consumers and guarantees they can't sell you something that literally doesn't work anymore. Sony's cancellation and refund rollout for Concord is a great example of what the bill would be asking for in actual practice. This also may be the only time Concord is ever used as a positive example for anything. To account for the technical and legal complexities, the bill would have applied these regulations only to games released on or after January 1st, 2027, while exempting categories such as free-to-play titles and subscription-based game services, with later suggestions updating that to 2028. So these people either didn't read the bill that they are actively discussing, or they're, it seems like, trying to misrepresent it, because the bill itself provides exemptions for subscription games. Their entire argument falls apart because of exemptions in the bill that they're talking about right now. But either the senators and the committee members didn't read it, or they don't understand it, because they seemingly accepted, some of them at least, enough to make it go nowhere, accepted the ESA's grade school level argument at face value, or maybe they did read it. But they accepted the grade school level argument for a different reason, which could be that it's because the ESA funnels millions of dollars into government, both local and federal. The ESA's comments provide a glimpse of its broader lobbying within the video game industry, and this is something that becomes a concern for ID verification on the internet at large, not just gaming. The ESA represents many of the largest game companies in the US, including the console manufacturers like Microsoft, Nintendo, and Sony, as well as AAA game publishers like Epic Games, Ubisoft, Capcom, and EA, which is now owned in part by Jared Kushner, Donald Trump's son-in-law. The group is clear about its lobbying goals. The ESA describes the top membership benefits as being able to shape policy priorities and, quote, protect your company's creative works and innovations, end quote. This makes the ESA more similar to the UKIE in England than anything else. If you saw our documentary in London where we followed around a game scrapper, then you saw how the police force acted on behalf of Sega, which was listed as authorized to execute a search warrant as a private company on a private citizen's property in cooperation with the police, all for games Sega itself threw in the garbage. So that's the future we're spiraling towards. Like, that's real. That has happened. And it can happen here and elsewhere. And it's easy to look at it on the surface and be like, it's video games. Like, how much could people really care about that? Well, we'll tell you how much they could care, because we have a documented case, a video we've published that shows someone in the UK being raided for owning the wrong game cartridges. Did a whole deep dive on it. There's a documentary. You can watch it. I'll link it below. But that story was a warning, and it should be taken seriously, because even though it's sort of, on one hand, it's quote-unquote just video games for a lot of these people who don't get it, on the other hand, it's a lot of money. And that's why this stuff is scary, the trajectory that it's on. The ESA also provides research data and networking opportunities for its members. We couldn't find instances of the ESA publicly saying how much it costs to become a member, but it's not cheap. In a 2024 tax form that we dug up on the IRS database, the ESA reported revenue of more than $40 million. Of that $40 million, the ESA made more than $27 million alone from member dues. Presumably, the ESA's members are paying hundreds of thousands or millions of dollars to be part of the club. The ESA currently lists 21 members. The ESA spends much of this money on lobbying. According to Open Secrets, the ESA has spent tens of millions of dollars, in fact, on lobbying, with nearly $6 million spent last year alone. The group has increased its lobbying budget in the last decade. Since 2021, the group has spent around $6 million on lobbying each year. Digging into the lobbying firms it hires, they include Evoke LLC, which we recently talked about for representing memory manufacturer Micron. Evoke advocates for Coinbase, Goldman Sachs, AI Progress, Bloomberg, Blackstone, Fox Corporation, Meta, and the Mushroom Kingdom's most hated company. Bloomberg being listed is pretty interesting here, because Bloomberg is also partly behind the recent 3D printer legislation, also in California this last week, also ruled against the consumer. The ESA also hired BGR Group, a lobbying firm that advocated on behalf of Nebius, an AI cloud infrastructure provider, alongside Qualcomm and HP Enterprise. It's pretty interesting as well that the ESA seems so linked and in bed with AI, considering its pro-subscription, anti-consumer propaganda that it's been pushing. In a filing we dug up from the first quarter of 2026, the ESA lobbied on behalf of intellectual property bills, what it calls online child safety laws, privacy laws, and digital services taxes. Some of these seem to us to be moving toward ID verification as well. not all of the ESA's key priorities show up in federal forms. The ESA lists key issues on its website. We'll look at a few of them. The ESA says subscription-based models, quote, save consumers money, and that gamers, quote, demand the ease of auto-renewal options, end quote. So they seem to think that we just love spending money every month forever.
Shut up and take my money!
When it comes to right to repair laws, the ESA's fear-mongering stance is that right to repair mandates create security and piracy risks for video game manufacturers and would ultimately, quote, enable copyright-protected games to be illegally copied and played, end quote. Since no lobbying group can ignore AI because, money, the ESA says new AI tools lead to, quote, better design experiences for game developers and a better experience for players, end quote, despite ample evidence and examples of people not wanting generative AI in games. And that's not to mention Deep Learned Super Slop 5. The ESA's comments show how insidiously lobbying can infect and poison public policy and legislation. For example, when the ESA made the argument that private servers are tantamount to theft and piracy and intellectual property infringement, the ESA, as evidence, cited the Notorious Markets report, and it used that as the foundation for its argument when it was opposing the California bill. The ESA did not say, however, that it itself had contributed to the very evidence it was providing, the Notorious Markets report. In 2018, the Office of the United States Trade Representative, known as the USTR, asked for comments for its Notorious Markets report. This report, quote, identifies select online and physical marketplaces that reportedly engage in or facilitate substantial copyright piracy and trademark counterfeiting, end quote. The USTR federal agency works on trade agreements with other nations and meets with business groups and legislators to collect information on trade issues. The ESA responded to the government's request. In a letter to the USTR, the ESA described several website examples that it claims infringe on intellectual property rights or provide counterfeit products and services. Among these websites, the ESA specified unauthorized private servers as a risk to game publishers' business models. The trade group wrote that, quote, third-party private servers, end quote, threatened revenue models based on microtransactions, subscription fees, and on-screen advertising. The ESA further said, quote, when users are diverted to play on such servers, video game publishers are not able to monetize their online content and thus face reduced opportunities to recoup their investment in new distribution platforms, end quote. The ESA identified World of Warcraft servers Warmain.com and FirestormServers.com as taking revenue away from Blizzard Entertainment since users didn't have to pay monthly subscription fees. As we know from the California hearing, ESA's lobbying succeeded. The USTR included both of these World of Warcraft servers in its Notorious Markets report from 2018 and 2019. But those are a totally non sequitur argument from what is actually being discussed, which is private servers at large. It's not the same thing. It presents these things sometimes as if it's third-party information, but it's really not. And lobbying groups like the ESA will try to stop pro-consumer, pro-ownership legislation wherever they can, it seems like. The California bill, they're trying to kill it before it can get off the ground to actually be voted on for real, to actually move forward, to actually get concrete definitions everywhere, get worked out through the legal and the legislative processes, and hopefully become a law that gives consumers some kind of actual written promise of what it is you're buying when you pay now $100 for a digital download like GTA 6. That's what they're trying to do. The people who are in favor of the legislation that supports consumers here, they want a written, understood policy on your level of ownership. It's pretty basic stuff. It's like, let's just all be on the same page here so everybody knows what you're getting and what to expect. It's really the most base level of commerce and guarantee. But these groups, they get paid by game companies and they also collaborate with AI companies, which I find particularly ironic that the ESA is making its argument on piracy and intellectual property theft. It's saying if you have a private game server for Minecraft, which is legal and sanctioned itself by Minecraft, by Microsoft, if you have that private game server, you are stealing from them. You're stealing intellectual property. You are a pirate. And then on the other hand, they go and advocate for AI, which is stealing from humanity at large, everything that has ever been produced, and it's using it to profit. That's okay, apparently. It's not okay when you steal IP by hosting a game server or pirate a game, actually. That's not okay. Pirating a game, you can get tried for that. That's a crime. Not allowed. But when they go and they want to advocate for AI to create generative AI assets for games, that's okay. It's interesting. They're talking out of both sides of their mouth. When the multi-billion-dollar corporations steal from people, that's allowed. When the people try to host their own server to play with their friends on, that's theft. Fuck you. The ESA doesn't care about gamers or consumer rights. Their job is to advocate for and protect the mega corporations that give them tens of millions of dollars every year. In an IRS filing we dug up, the ESA describes its mission as serving, quote, as the voice and advocate for the video game industry, end quote. So if a bill would cost the video game industry money, the ESA advocates against it. Several weeks before calling private servers, quote, illegal, end quote, the ESA came out against the proposed Protect Our Games Act in an opinion piece. The ESA's president and CEO, Stan Pierre-Louis, said the bill would threaten the, quote, modern gameplay experience by misunderstanding how online services work, end quote, and, quote, shows a fundamental lack of knowledge about how games are built and maintained today, end quote. The ESA's president finished his rambling by saying the bill, quote, doesn't just misunderstand games, it undermines the very thing it claims to protect, end quote. Which one, sounds like ChatGPT wrote it, and two, is also just an admission of what the ESA itself is actually doing. They are telling you the thing they're doing in that statement. We'd argue that undermining video games includes spreading inaccurate information, possibly knowingly, although we can't prove that definitively, with policymakers, and misunderstanding core gaming knowledge, like Minecraft server jars and binaries have been available for fucking near 20 years at this point. And private servers are a core part of that experience. Like, if you don't understand Minecraft and the servers, which is one of the most popular games of all time, what are you doing representing law that affects it? Like, it's baffling to me, because I think it is easy for a lot of legislature branches and people in government to look at this stuff and go, video games are for kids. Like, this isn't that serious. We have big things to vote on, like 3D printing bad shapes, for example. But like, the stuff matters. Details matter. If you're writing law, the specifics of it matter. That stuff should be understood by the people writing it. Otherwise, don't do it. It's like worse to write something you don't understand as law than to not write anything at all. But that's not what talks here. Money is. So if anyone needs to revisit the fundamentals of gaming, as they're seemingly saying everyone else, all of us need to do, the people who actually play the video games, it's the ESA. So they know what they're talking about before opening their fucking mouths. So we need to get Will Smith in here. But I mean, seriously, like, this organization is poison. They sound like they represent gaming in a way that's like, let's advance the art of gaming and invite people into this media that others, the people who might not have played games before, who could appreciate it as the art that it can be. But actually what they're doing is taking millions of dollars and then at the same time giving millions of dollars to government to push for laws that generate more millions of dollars and over the years billions for publishers. And now you've even got people like Jared Kushner involved with EA Games. So now we're not even just talking about generating billions of dollars for a game developer or their publisher, but also people who are directly connected to government. Like, this is insane. We're going to follow this more. I don't know. I'm going to try to get some of these people on camera. I doubt they'll agree to it at this point after this video, but we'll see what we can do. Maybe we'll fly out there and see if we can catch the next hearing or wherever they tend to congregate to talk. So that's it for this one. Thanks for watching. Subscribe for more. Go to store.gamersnexus.net to support us and our deep dives directly, our ability to dig into details like we found in this one and some of what we think is evidence of corruption in this one. We can spend the time to do that because of your support. So you can go to store.gamersnexus.net, grab something like one of our Microslap t-shirts. We have more coming in, by the way. Our copyright, actually this is a particularly fitting one right now, the copyright strike t-shirt, when Bloomberg copyright struck us. And Bloomberg seems to be involved in a lot of the laws we're talking about lately as well. So it can't escape them. That's it. Subscribe for more. See you all next time.